Welcome, Adriana Herrera. I don't even know how many episodes you've been on now. It's a lot.
You're a whole crew of pink ladies all by yourself.
I know.
I know. I'm like a season now.
we could just pull out those episodes, run them as like the Adriana season. The Adriana cut.
That sounds delightful, actually. That sounds so nice.
But this is very exciting. We're so excited to have you. It's the beginning of season 8. You have been certainly on an episode every season at least. So thanks for being with us all this time.
I am very happy to be here. I was actually talking to someone the other day about the first time I was on this. Oh, it was Alexis Daria, because she had never read Immortals After Dark. Imagine.
And no.
Blasphemy. And
she's a paranormal reader.
She is, but she hadn't. I think she tried to read them like a while ago and started with the first one, which, I always say.
To be willing to just go with God on the first one.
Yes, I would say you got to start those paranormal series for the 2000s on the second book and go back. But anyway, so she started it and then has been listening to the episodes as she goes. She was like, I'm listening to your episodes. Like, Bona Mariqueta were my first.
Oh my gosh.
Virgin voyage on Fated Mates.
I know. You anointed him the IID fuckboy on that episode, a favorite moment of the series for me. Welcome everyone to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop, a romance reader and editor. And as you've heard, we're here with Adriana Herrera, who is now essentially, I'm going to call you the queen of Romancelandia, along with your other AH, Allie Hazelwood. So why don't you tell us what you've been up to? Because it's pretty impressive.
We have been up to, we just finished up technically, but when this comes out, a campaign called After the End, which is the first project that Allie and I have done together of romance collections. We came up with the idea, drinking margaritas, but it was a pretty sound idea, even though we had been drinking, of kind of gathering folks who we thought were amazing romance authors, coming up with a concept that excited us. And we wanted to create an environment as people that have been in traditional publishing, and as all we know, traditional publishing can be challenging in certain ways in terms of like the support. So we wanted to provide kind of like what would happen if we found amazing authors and we gave them everything they needed to feel supported, and gave them a beautiful book, and all they had to do was send us a story and we'd do everything else. And so that it was kind of like the idea for this first one, After the End, a dystopian romance collection. So it's 8 romances that are dystopian, and the collection has myself and Allie, Nikki Payne, Nisha Sharma, Elizabeth Stephens, Claire Kent, Kate C. Wells, and the great Sherry Thomas, which I still cannot believe.
I can't either. Every time I look at it.
A collection of Fated Mates favorites.
Yeah. I was talking to someone the other day and she was like, what is it like to talk to Sherry Thomas? And I'm like, I couldn't tell you because I black out every time I interact with her and make an absolute fool of myself. So I think it's great, but you have to ask her.
You're like, I couldn't tell you. Yeah, sure.
The Kickstarter is wrapping up, but people are still able, if that sounds like if dystopian romance by all of those incredible authors sounds like something you want, you can still get access to the Kickstarter and order some books.
Yes, we have late pledges. I mean, it's something that Kickstarter allows for like a little bit of time right after it ends. I think it's about a week. So
that's, if you're listening to this on the day it drops, you have like around a week to go and pledge.
Yeah, the price is like a little higher, like 10% more than you would have gotten it if you would have gotten it during like the actual run of that campaign. But you can still get the ebooks, the audiobooks. You can get the hardcovers,
the artwork, everything about it. I just felt so seen. I was like, these are people who love romance the way I love romance. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
that is what we wanted for it to feel like we see you people who have been feral for romance your whole lives. We actually, I think this might actually be out by the time this is out. So we have a little mascot, and it's like a raccoon with like guns that shoot out hearts, and she's called Amorosa because she's like our little like kind of homage to Furiosa from Fury Road because
I love it.
and she's like the trash panda of love. So we have pins and stickers that we're gonna do that we did as a stretch goal of Amorosa. And like the idea is like this is for the people that just love romance, love great romance, and want that feeling of like these are books that are like, I don't know, like proud of just being like
What they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like even the poses that we did for those books, like we went to like the old like the all the clinches in those books are like literally from Joanna Lindsay books that we like I sent the artist like I want it to look like this. We wanted like a more pulpy look for the actual style of the covers, but like a little sci-fi-ish style, but the poses themselves were literally like you want this pose from this like, 1987 Joanna Lindsay book.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, it looks amazing. You can head over right now and learn more about the Kickstarter. What's the URL, Adriana?
It's aftertheendromance.com is the website. And you can also find us in the Instagram at After the End Romance.
And we'll put all this in show notes, of course.
Exactly. But that's not why you're here today. The Kickstarter was launched after we had this idea to have you on at the beginning of season 8. Our last week's episode was us sort of giving a kind of overview of who we are for new listeners. We had not done that in a long time, and talking about kind of where we see the genre, kind of what the state of the genre, like what are we thinking about romance? And we thought we'd really love for you to join us this week to talk about this kind of big question that seems to like always float through conversations about romance, which is how does romance intersect with feminism? Like, is it, back in the day, we used to say like romance is a feminist genre by virtue of like being by, for, and about women. We don't say that anymore because it's not accurate. And so I think that this is one of those things where a lot of people sort of intellectually or maybe not intellectually, but like in their gut feel like romance should feel feminist, should be feminist. And I know I talk a lot about like how many of the books can be feminist and are feminist and like inspire me to like be more feminist in my day-to-day life. But certainly there are books that don't make me feel that way. And when I think about feminism and I think about the people that I want to talk about feminism with, you are always at the top of that list. So here we are. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit as somebody who I know thinks a lot about this kind of question of like, how do romance and feminism like come together and interplay? Where do you come from when you think about that?
I think part of it, I'm trying to like think about it like conceptually. I think a lot about my books in terms of like message. And I think because my value system is so grounded in feminist values, I think it just kind of comes out in what I want to say. And so I think that to me is part of like the tricky part. I think like feminism can't be something that you add in like as a spice.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like it can't be like something
right. Like she girl bosses in chapter 37 and therefore it's feminist.
Correct. Or like like I see a lot of like books that are like, kind of like adding a tag on us like feminine rage and like, but like, what does that mean? Like, what does it mean to like, what are we raging at? What's the rage for? Where does it come from? How does it manifest itself? Because again, to me, feminism like as someone that comes from the school of like more like Black feminist thought, like feminism is of course about gender equality, but like what we really want is like a better world for everyone.
That's what I really kind of almost feel like maybe we should start by defining
Yes.
what feminism is and why it's important in our worldview, like the worldview of this podcast, the worldview of the three of us, and then like what it means to want it in romance. Because I guess I will say, like, maybe there are people right now who are like, well, I don't consider myself a feminist, or I don't care about feminism, or I don't care if romance is feminist, and or not all romance has to be feminist. And maybe all of those things are true or not, but I think the three of us think that the romances we love best are feminist. And so maybe we just even need to, like, what is feminism? I don't even know if people know what feminism even means sometimes. Am I wrong for saying that?
No, I think you're very right.
I think you're right. I was actually having a conversation the other day with someone who's like, like everything doesn't have to be feminist. And I agree. I agree that we don't have to come into every conversation or even every romance book, like if that's not our own like core story, right? Like I think to me, where things get tricky is when you want to like feminine, like add the
Right.
feminist part as like, well, she's like
She
a
loves
girl
Chapel Roan, so
or like girl power
Yeah.
or like like all of these things, because I think part of the thing is like romance, again, like I said before, feminist can't be a spice. It has to be like where everything's like cooked in. It has to be like the broth that everything is cooked in. It has to be like in everything that is forming the story. And feminism isn't just about like she gets to be the boss at the end or whatever. It really is. It's like the world that the world is better off now than it was in the beginning.
So this is something really interesting because, and I think this goes with Jen's question about like, how does romance why should romance feel feminist? Like, why do we want it to go in that direction? The three of us, I should say. And that is because, and I know all three of us listen to that Jane Ann Krentz episode that I talk about all the time, but when she says genre drives characters to be their best selves, she's not just saying like the characters, she's saying they also leave the world in a better place. Which is an interesting thing when you think about people like, you mentioned Claire Kent is in the dystopian romance collection. Like when you think about Claire writing a series set on a prison planet, right? Like how does the romance serve the world, like make the world of that space better? And in that case, if it does, and in that book, for example, it does in some way.
You're talking about Hold.
I'm talking about
Right.
Hold, right? Not. I don't know what Claire wrote for the anthology, but in Hold, right? Like she does move the world forward.
Yeah.
Impossibly so, it feels. So like, is that what we're looking for? This idea of like, the world has to be on a better path, not fixed, because we can't fix patriarchy, right? Like it's an endless cycle of fight, but we have to move forward.
Yeah.
It's funny because when we talk about this question, right, like sort of, is an individual's life better or is the world better? What I think about a lot is a scene from Sex and the City. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, and I should have probably like looked up what actual episode is on. They're all sitting around a brunch and it's Samantha who's kind of like, I want to do it. If I want to do it, then it's feminist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is not true, right? Like this is flagrantly untrue, right? Individual choices. I mean, and I think that to me is the big thing I think about a lot is, if you are one of the like American brain rot is that like, if a one person can do something or not, then that's just the way it goes, right? Like we have really like downed a story about individualism that now we can see has ruined there's been a long path of like how it's ruined our society.
Right.
And now here we
Hero's journey is bullshit.
Right, exactly. And so when I think about feminism, I'm thinking about, right, as Adriana said, like, okay, the world has to be better, not just this one individual woman's life is better for talking about a main character. But I mean, even in then like a romance where there are no women as characters, I think they can espouse feminist values if what they believe is that like equality should not be something that you're prohibited from having because of your gender or your sexual identity.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think like, I mean, because if you go by the rule of if a woman is doing it and she is exerting her agency to fulfill her goals is feminism, then like every woman in the Trump administration is a feminist.
Sure, Margaret Thatcher.
And I tacitly reject that. Like Kristi Noem is not a feminist. Pam Bondi is not a feminist. Nancy Mace is not a feminist, and I can go on and on and on and on. And please quote me. And so to me, like that is like to me like a baseline of what the litmus test must be. Like a woman being able to do whatever she wants is certainly something that we want, but like if there is no thought about the larger impact of their actions, then like in a feminist world, the vulnerable, like we're aspiring to make everyone who is vulnerable safer.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a feminist romance, everybody that was unsafe is safer in the world that we've left them.
Right. It's not, it's not necessarily perfect, but it's moving in that direction.
It's moving in that direction. We've negotiated with the power systems so that we have like tipped the balance a little more.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Pippa Grant, author of The Spite Date.
So Bea lives in a small little town. And you know what? She likes it that way. She's a little grumpy, but people leave her alone. Everything's fine, except for the fact that her ex essentially has like stolen her like recipes and is using them to open his own restaurant. And just like nothing is really going her way. And to make it worse, these two twin teenage boys essentially like get her arrested. And their father is Hollywood's hottest leading man, this British actor named Simon Lockwood, who for some reason like lives in her town part-time. And she just cannot stand the way everybody is constantly like fawning over this man. Like it's like a weird TV show he was in. Why is he always smiling? Clearly, this man cannot be trusted. So after the arresting part, Simon is like a nice guy and offers to like take her out on a date. And she's like, oh, I have a great plan. We'll go to my ex's restaurant. I will throw a huge fit, make a big public spectacle, and like wash my hands out of these two idiots forever. Only Simon's really nice and she really likes him and they have a great time.
Ooh.
What's going to happen when Miss Grumpy meets Mr. Sunshine and like small town hijinks and big time love ensue?
Listen, you know I love a normie celebrity romance, and this one seems like it's perfectly formatted for me. If it's perfectly formatted for you too, you can read it right now in print, ebook, audiobook, or with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. And as a special treat for Fated Mates listeners, Pippa Grant has given us a sneak peek of the audiobook of The Spite Date, and that will run immediately after this week's episode, so stick around to listen to that. Thanks to Pippa Grant for sponsoring this week's episode.
I think of the three of us, everybody, I just want to own this. My like grounding in feminist theory is probably the weakest, right? Like this isn't something, I mean, I guess I took some classes in college. That was a long time ago, right? This isn't something that I feel like I truly, you know what I mean? So like if you're right now listening to this and you're like, well, I haven't read feminist theory, like I'm the voice of you. Right. But I do think like, so I found myself thinking a lot about why did I feel like romance was feminist when I was younger? Right? Like, what is it about the books that I was reading or the kinds of stories that I was reading? And I think when I think a lot about like Like, I really loved Sandra Brown books back in the day, right? And I think a lot about books I read where, like, I really liked a book called Fantasy, right? It was like a love swept, right? Fanta and then the letter C. Because in this book, and again, listen, I haven't read this in a long time. Like, would it feel feminist to me now? But I really remember. So she was a widow, and what she wanted to do was like open her own shop, her own store. And like, that was the name of it, right? She opened it in a local hotel, and right.
This would have been a sex toy shop in 2025.
It would be. But back then it was like, I think she sold like ties and crystals and stuff like that, right? Okay. But what I remember about these books, about like Sandra Brown, like Love Sweeps, and about like Love Sweeps as a line in general, was often these were books where women were divorced or widowed. They had to be financially responsible for themselves and their families. They had to enter a workforce in lots of different kinds of ways that were not just like you're an assistant to the billionaire, right? Like, there was a book by not Tammy Hogue. There's a book by Barbara Boswell. I really loved her, where the woman, she was a mom and her husband had died, and she essentially like worked nights at the airport at BWI, at Baltimore Washington International Airport, because she wanted to like be home for her kids during the day. Like, she was really trying to essentially like, I don't know, bridge the gap between, right? Like, I want to be able to like know my children, but also I am now the sole breadwinner. And my mother was a divorced mom who was doing the same thing. And so I think, like, to me, I understood these books to be feminist because they were like, the world is not set up for us to succeed and take care of our families. We have been left behind. I have nothing because of my financial situation, because my husband either died or left me or moved on or whatever. And now it is my fucking job to support myself and my family. And I found these books to be incredibly moving, both as someone who like didn't know how to say to my mom, I see how hard this is for you. Right? I see how fucking hard this is for you and all your friends, by the way. And so for me, when I think back upon like the way I entered into romance as a reader, these were books where women were, and I think it like tells a lot of the things I still love in romance, like A Woman Against the Wall, a woman who's independent, a woman, right, came from an entire like category series where almost every single book was a woman who's like, well, I got to figure this shit out because no one's going to figure it out for me.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to say something regarding like, you know, like this, like, because I think that's where things get complicated, of this sense of like, I need to have like some kind of like very deep and very like intellectual or academic or scholarly understanding of like feminism, feminist theory, to be someone that is moving through the world with a feminist lens. And I think that's like part of where I think things get complicated in terms of like, is it like, you know, is it feminist enough or not? Because I think like we're all feminists, like, because the value system that we operate on, it's like, it isn't fair for us to have something at the expense of other people not having. And like, it really kind of all whittles down to like that basic thing. Like, what is just is a world where the world is more equitable for everyone.
For everyone.
And coming into a book with a man and a woman where that man believes that she is a person, in her personhood, with like, no matter how emotionally constipated he is, he's never had a feeling or whatnot. In 2025, if you're writing a book and that man doesn't have a very concrete sense of a woman's personhood, then that's where we get into the territory where like, well, I don't know if this can be feminist or not. But like, if that's your parting point, like, I think how that plays out in terms of the romance, I think it's up to the writer to like how hard they want to go. But I don't think you have to like go so hard. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to make her like an abortionist. Like she can just be a single mom that's, like trying to make it. And she's like, just like hasn't like what she's teaching her children by like how she's negotiating a romance, what she wants from that relationship is enough. I think sometimes we complicate it too much with feminism.
I agree. And I think also the equity piece is so important. Like you talked about what is and is not just. And I think that one of the things that we hear a lot in romance now is like, well, those old school romances, the ones Jen is talking about, the ones that were written at the same time, right? Those heroes were emotionally constipated at the beginning. They didn't necessarily see like the heroine as a human. Like think about those like the classic old historicals from the 80s and early 90s. And I think what's interesting about that is that those texts were in many ways showing heroines teaching heroes like about equity. Like the growth was breaking the hero like on the page and sending him to be rebuilt as like a metaphor for, hey, fuck you like we all
Right.
like we have to be seen as equal. Like we have to be partners.
Yeah, I mean, back then we were also smoking half a pack of cigarettes at dinner time.
No,
So
exactly.
I don't know if we want to just kind of say, well, it was okay then. So, because it has been 5 decades.
Yeah. I mean, but I also would argue that it's not the same. Yeah, it's been 5 decades, but also like a lot of like, those men did have to learn on the page.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, we should have learned, like, we should be in a different place where like even the language that we have to use those heroes as patriarchy should be different, because like I mean, a lot of the things unfortunately are the same, but like for the consciousness, the collective consciousness that we have as women I mean, my mother's 74, and when I have a conversation with my mother about feminism, the consciousness that I have around a lot of things is different than she does, because I grew up in the 90s in the middle of the AIDS pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a very different sense about sexuality, queerness, blah, 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 whatever. And yet in certain things, my mother is definitely a feminist. But like, to me, I don't think I don't think it's a fair comparison, and or even honestly coming from a place of like, we're having a good faith conversation in terms of like, what does it like that we are saying, well, those heroes were whatever they were. Yeah, babe. Like, yeah, sure. And so like 70 years, like 40 years have passed.
Yeah. And they were not written for a long time too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's just different. Even from 2000, like the way we even talk about queerness and like trans folks and sexuality and desire and all of those things in 2015 is different than how we talk about it in 2025. Yeah. And so how is it that every other thing that we talk about in romance constantly, consent, desire, sexuality, gender expression, all of that has become like has evolved, and yet we can't, like, what's up with that? Like that feels a little inconsistent to me. And I'm not saying it doesn't apply, but I'm saying like, I don't know if it's a fair comparison to say these heroes in the 80s were acting the way that they were. Yeah, there were also like, they all had mustaches and like like smoked a ton.
Yeah.
Yeah. The big change I also see or have seen in romance, right, is our understanding that like we can't call a whole group of books feminist if they're not intersectional.
That's fair.
We just can't.
A lot of this is like how the heroes and the heroines see the world. Like, right, that's what makes, like, there's not like a setting or a plot twist that's going to make something feminist. It just really is like the point of view of these people because you're writing it. So to me, like, the idea that we can still kind of use whatever point of view a book was being written in the 70s and 80s to like explain why something is the way it is in 2025, to me feels like then that would have to apply to everything. Like, what was the language around Black people or race, or culture or immigrants or like in those books in that time? Because we have to then like bring it all up. Like, that's how it works. Like, all of it has to apply then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it can't just be like that one thing that we can like just kind of like leave in the past, and everything else has to come to the present.
But so here's my question, I think, with this, and I think it's a question that a lot of like authors have, is this kind of, I feel like one of the things that we're losing or that is shifting in romance right now, largely, and obviously like I'm painting with a broad brush here, but is this idea that like, for me, as a longtime romance reader, I have thought a lot about the genre as being like, you know, I talk so much about conflict, like it feels very internal. The heartbeat of romance is an internal sort of revelatory experience, right? Like the path of revelation is like a piece of the story of romance, right? And so I think one of the things that is happening right now, especially in a particular kind of contemporary romance, is a kind of flattening of the revelation. Like, characters arrive on page one already fully evolved.
Mm-hmm.
Often heroes arrive on page one, often fully evolved. And so I think that this is a way that like writers kind of shorthand feminism in the text, right? Like, I've put a hero on page who has already done like all of his like emotional patriarchal work. Like, he's a feminist. He, you know, goes to protests. He, you know, does his thing. And therefore, like, the book is already feminist by virtue of like the characters being able to call themselves such.
Mm-hmm.
Do we feel that is the way we are like, do we feel like that text is naturally feminist, or do we feel like you have to show your work? Like, I have a real feeling about heroes, right? Like, anybody who listens to the podcast knows that like I like a hero who does need to be worked on in many ways, because I think this is a big piece of the work of our time. Intersectionally, he needs to be worked on in 2025.
I want you to think. I'm going to answer that question by talking about why I hate To Kill a Mockingbird.
Please do.
Mrs. Prokop's class.
Yeah. No, I mean, and this is like a real, I think like I kind of want to answer that question so like people love this book. God bless, you know, you love it. Atticus Finch to me. So like people will be like, well, I love Atticus. Now I have come to realize, I think a lot of people say that because they're talking about the movie, but like my question is always like, I would like to know how he got there. How did this man in 1930s Alabama, growing up in the Jim Crow South, become become magically non-racist? How did this happen? And I think, right?
He's already evolved on page one.
Correct. He comes into and so I think when white readers say they love him, I am always like, well, what's not to love? That you too can magically be not racist without doing
the
any
platonic
work.
Ideal of,
So you have done no work. You just want to say that you're not racist. And that is what you've learned from this book.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes what I am seeing in the text of these books is a similar man, only he's magically everything. And by doing that, he's magically nothing. How did he get this way?
Well, and
how did he arrive on page magically feminist, magically non-racist?
Yeah. And then the text is doing something else entirely, right? Like, then it's not, if everybody on page is perfect on page one, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Here's the thing, and I've talked about this before, and probably needs to be another episode. But I think there is like a shift in reader desires and like taste in like, I think millennial romance is its own thing,
like a new genre.
Yeah,
and I think like, you know, Gen X romance is different than like boomer romance. You know what I mean? Like there's just like stuff and themes and messaging and characterization. Like, you know, our Gen X romance has a lot of women who were not virgins, who were out in the world, working, having sex, dating, having sexual pasts before they met the hero that they end up with. These are not things that you would see necessarily in a boomer romance. Like you have men who were coming in like you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of thematic things that Gen Xers, us, have put in our romances that the people who were writing romances before didn't necessarily. And I think it's a lot of it is in, you know, a product of like how we came up. Like we all came up in the 90s. The 90s was an interesting place to come of age and to start having sex when, like, you know, there had been just like a pretty much like a pandemic that killed millions of people for having sex.
Sure.
Quote unquote.
And there is a sort of very famous, just to pause, there is a very famous like boomer romance novelist who I will not name, who like famously said she was sick and tired of having to put condoms in books now. Like,
correct. Condoms.
So yes, perfect example, right?
But like to us who grew up at that time, it's like
we're like, where's the condom?
And so I think for millennials, I think there is this like sense of, I think because it's just more present, that there is a sense like that like men are more aware of like feminism and gender equity, and that like, you know, as a standard, like baseline standard is that you wouldn't fall in love with a man that isn't already like there in terms of like his feminist values. Like you wouldn't, but then to me it's like, and that's fair, but then to me it's like right now in 2025 we're in a place where like, you know, you've got like every fucking man that's upright and breathing has got a microphone and a podcast that's red pilling the world. And we've got, you know, like the Department of War over here, and like, you know, like toxic masculinity and patriarchy is like rampant and toxic. And I think there is a space for like, of course, like I can understand as a readership, like there is a space, of course, of wanting to read something that is, you know, feels like a more like an easier reading experience, and this experience is not anxiety producing.
That's a fantasy, right? Like that's a really lovely fantasy, which is what we traffic in that too.
Yes. But I do think then, like, I think it's like, I think the point that Jen made is like honestly perfect, is like, then how did that man get that way? Because it requires a lot of work not to be that way.
This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by HarperCollins, publishers of A.T. Qureshi's The Baby Dragon Bakery, the coziest friends to lovers fantasy romance of 2025.
Okay.
Fun.
It's so cute. Everybody, sometimes you just want to like have something really cozy. And in this case, we have a cozy fantasy about Lavinia. She is, she thinks she has it all. She has a loving family, including an adorable pet baby dragon. She goes to university and is training to be a magical animal veterinarian. And she has a part-time job at the Baby Dragon Cafe. The only thing she doesn't have is her one true love, Theo. Theo is a local baker and her best friend. And listen, she knows and everyone else knows that they are perfect for each other. He's funny. She's witty. He's sweet. She's a little salty. They've been best friends for as long as anyone can remember. They've never been without each other. And she is finally ready to make her move. But when she does, Theo apparently does not know that they're meant to be together because he pulls away and she's just devastated. So has this friendship gone up in smoke?
Awful.
Or will Theo finally realize that he wants them to be more than friends?
Oh no. Theo, get it together. I believe in you.
I bet this baby dragon has to like, you know, stinge him a little.
I love that the baby dragon is going to have to get involved. It's also important to point out that A.T. Qureshi is very skilled at her own complicated baking. So I feel like if you love a book with a kitchen in it, this one might just be perfect for you. If you feel that way too, you can read The Baby Dragon Bakery right now in print, ebook, or audiobook. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to HarperCollins and A.T. Qureshi for sponsoring this week's episode. Can we point to books where this hero, like the feminism is baked into the text and they are doing this well, this sort of like, here is a hero who like understands, like has already done his work, and then is moving forward through the text, and the text is overtly feminist, but not because of him. Does that make sense? Like the work is being done on the page. And again, I want to underscore what Adriana said at the very beginning, which is you are not required to write this book or read this book, but I'm curious about these books and how they exist in society.
And I mean, I think like the larger of the label of saying like, I'm, you know, like this is a feminist romance. So like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like what I mean, I'll say this too, and I think that is something also that I see a distinction in terms of, like, at least from my sense of millennial romance as opposed to Gen X romance. I think a lot of the work in Gen X romance, the hero's like journey to happily ever after is really like a big chunk of like the character work in the Gen X romance.
1,000%.
Like, you know,
I mean, they are hero stories in many ways.
Correct. You have Elisa Kleypas, you have a Susan Elizabeth Phillips, where, you know, that man's journey from beginning to end is the heavy lifting of that book. Like, this woman is already fantastic. She's just up against the wall. And it's like her grit and her resilience and her magnificence brings him out of like patriarchy
and
like,
her willingness to say, I can do this better on my own.
Correct. And that is such a cornerstone of the Gen X, of the great Gen X romance. Not that I'm assuming Elizabeth Phillips isn't Gen X, but like
the books of the 90s and early thoughts. Yep.
But like, I think in millennial romance, I don't know if the hero's transformation is that important.
What is that saying? Because so obviously if you come from like a Dangerous Men, Adventurous Women style, right? There's that great essay in it from Laura Kinsale saying all romance readers read romances through the lens of the hero, right? Which that's a whole separate that's a separate conversation. But right. If we accept that is true, right? Like just for the purposes of this exercise, like that we come to books, like you said, in the 90s and early aughts, like Gen X romance, let's call it that, comes to the books for the hero's journey. What is the journey that we are reading now in millennial romance and like new romance? And like, can we point to books where we say like that is a feminist text, like that story is a feminist story and it is her story?
I don't know if it qualifies as a millennial romance, but I've been thinking about this too. But I do have a book that I think is deeply feminist. It's pretty recent, and it's a book called. But I don't know if that's really answering that question.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I'm just
okay. Right. And it's called Careless Whispers by Synethia Williams. And this might have been one of like the best of. Mm-hmm. And part of the reason that I think this is such an interesting romance is, okay, so Elena is, I think it's like the third book in a series. She has worked for her father kind of with he owns, it's like a tobacco company. Her family owns like a tobacco company, which I think is also really interesting, right? Like just on its face. But Elena is like, well, I have done everything my father wanted me to do because it meant I was going to be the CEO one day. He was going to step down and hand the company to me. And the deal is that I was going to have to be very cold, you know what I mean? Like she really bought into the patriarchy kind of hook, line, and sinker. And then what happens is her father instead fires her and gives the job to like her nemesis. And the journey that she has to go on is very much one where instead of like, is like her essentially refuting the patriarchy, like realizing the ways in which she had believed or agreed to act a certain way with the promise of like being rewarded by the patriarchy. And then once that doesn't happen, she has to reevaluate her life.
It's Island Princess starts a scandal, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I have a couple. I think The Bonekin and the Starling by Elizabeth Stephens is a pretty feminist book. I think and I think that's a perfect example of a book where I don't know if Elizabeth did, but it's like, it's very much kind of like in the water, just like the way that the story develops and where the hero starts and where he ends and the realizations he has along the way because of her, like really make their world better. Like by the end, the world is
better,
like, concretely better than it was before. And he was already like, you know, like he had like the bones of being a good guy, and he was like definitely not a bad leader, but like he used violence and things like that. And she had to, like, her presence in his life made him have to reevaluate the way he led. And by the end, the world is better off because he met her, and because of her, he was changed for the better in the end. And like, to me, that is, it's not like preachy or whatever. It's like banana pants
so crazy
to end, but not nas. Yeah. But you know, I was like, this is like legit a really feminist book. And I'm like, okay, Elizabeth, I see what you did there. And it was, to me, like, that is kind of like, and I think definitely I would say that Elizabeth is definitely someone that is writing like, you know, millennial romance themes. And I thought she really executed that in a way that was, I don't know, refreshing. I really enjoyed it because it was so bonkers, but also because by the end I was like, this was very satisfying to me as someone who looks for feminism in my romance.
Well, what's interesting is you brought that up, and like, romantasy is so big right now, but like, there are ways where those books with like that sort of like electric, like wild world building, like building that sort of unknown, kind of outside of the realm of anything realistic world, ends up delivering you like an incredibly feminist experience. Like, and I mean, you all know, I've talked about it a million times, but the Heart of Blood and Ashes is a good example of that. Like the just of the wild world building that it's baked into every part of that, like the religion, the everything of that book. And so I feel like romantasy has this opportunity to like bake it in.
Yeah. I mean, I think some people do. Like, I read Everflame by Penn Cole, and I was like, I was like, this is like really a book that's like after like thinking about like power systems and, you know, like a heroine that's complicated and really challenges the hero. So, I mean, Nikki Payne, I think, is writing very feminist books intentionally. Regina Black, like August Lane, I think is like a really great, really feminist, really big book. And those I would consider for sure like millennial romances. And I think they're really like after, I mean, like everything in the world, I honestly think so much of everything is point of view. Yeah. I think most Black and brown women are going to be writing books that are feminist. Like, that's just what it is. I think white women just don't have to think about feminism as much as we do. Like, that's just what it is. Unfortunately, like, white feminism really has like fucked us all up.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Have you read Only Lovers in the Building by Nadine Gonzalez?
I'm reading it right now, and it's really great.
Yeah, and well, the thing is like, okay, so sometimes I'm like, okay, it starts off the bang, right? Like, so she is the Lily is the main character, and she essentially, like, the book opens with her, like, basically some man gets her promotion. And it's like the big company, essentially like getaway in Miami, and she's like, fuck this. And like quits her job and walks out without any plan. And she's just like, again, I think very drawn to books that unpack like feminism through your work, right? Like, because I think that's so often how many of us experience the ways in which like the world is unfair. And so she like walks out and she's kind of like, fuck it. And she just like rents a place for, I don't know, a month or the summer in Miami in like an Art Deco building. But what happens is like she meets Ben, who is, he has like I don't know, won some big prize. I can't remember if it's like a MacArthur Genius Grant or something. But he's a romance reader. And the two of them start off by like reading together. But by the end of the book, get the whole, like, have formed a community of readers in their building. Right. And it's small. It's not like the end of this book is not Lily going back to her company and like emerging victorious. It's her walking away from that entirely and thinking, I have to come up with a new way of like figuring out like who I am and what I value, and then bringing other people literally along with her. But, Ben, I would agree that it's a millennial romance, I think, in the sense that like Ben kind of comes to the table in some ways already a romance reader, right? Which like stands in for a certain kind of, I think, open-mindedness.
Yes.
So regardless of the fact that like there wasn't a whole lot of that, like he's going to be broken and remade, the whole point of this thing is like we have this thing that's just the two of us, but like we can get more people involved, like literal community
building.
And
yeah,
and I mean, I don't know what is more feminist than saying I'm going to turn away from this like corporate situation that's killing me, and what I'm going to do instead is like go to what makes me happy and build community around it. Like that, I mean, and I think that's where like we get so like, I don't know if every feminist book has to be like her going in there and like blowing up the CEO's desk and then stabbing 17 people. Like it could just literally be like, I'm going to like start from scratch and like really like do a reset of my values and find a way to, through my own like resetting of like what is most important to me, like find a way to like build community around it. Like I think that is part of where I feel like a lot of like the great feminist books of romance books are like that. Like I remember like reading of Susan, I mean, Ain't She Sweet, like Sugar Bath. Like I think about that book a lot because like that book came out, 1990, whatever.
It's so good.
And like her best friend is like a Black lesbian that owns a bookstore. And it really is a book where she has to come back.
She has to reckon.
And rebuild her place in that community and also like atone. And in the process, she kind of like gets that whole community in a better place by the end. I mean, it's the same with like Dream a Little Dream. No, which one's the one in the
that's the one to drive through.
Drive-in one.
It feels in many ways like those books, were instinctual. Like the writing of that book was instinctual for Susan. And I think that sort of chase to community, that journey to community that we point to as like, this is the heroine's journey, and this is the thing that all romance moves toward, was really instinctual. Then and now, like I think about Ashley Herring Blake's books, right? Like a perfect example of like a move toward community being like the cornerstone of those books. When I think about those books, I almost never think about the romance almost. Like I sort of think about all of them sitting around, I don't know, knitting sweaters or doing whatever they do, right? They don't knit sweaters, but that's how I feel about that book. They could, and that's what's important. And I think that there's something else going on now too in romance where we're seeing and you and I talked about this when we were together in Boston, Adriana, but this like kind of the community of millennial romance like happening on one side, and I mean all romance, but on the other side there's a sort of race away in many ways from community. Like on when you think about there are a lot of texts now where like it's two people just like isolated and they remain isolated the whole time, and like that feels like a really questionable, like that's not a text that I would ever instinctively call feminist.
This week's episode of Faded Mace is brought to you by Melody Beckett, author of Alien Desire.
So he's her only hope, Jen, and she is his secret desire. And if anybody's wondering, that is exactly when I ordered this book. I immediately went and clicked. Because with the alien Zakul fleet poised to destroy Earth, Space Force veteran Layla Story has thrown herself into the defense of her home, and she has made an alliance with humanity's last hope, the Taurians, a warrior race which has battled these like baddie aliens, the Zakul, and won. So Layla is willing to do whatever it takes to save Earth, to save humans, to save humanity, the world, etc. She refuses to let anything or anyone get in her way. The problem is that in her way is a 7-foot-tall, brooding alien warrior who offers the most delicious distraction. Commander Zach Carell wants to get back to fighting the Zakul, but his last battle with them left him badly scarred. And the only time he feels at peace physically or emotionally is when he is around Layla. So he's decided he is going to protect her. He is going to claim her. And Layla is like, hang on a second. There's no time for love at the end of the world. We have work to do. And he's like, what if this is the perfect time for love?
I mean,
and I think that's a lovely thing.
I think he's probably right. Okay, everybody. Alien Desire is the first book in the Taurian Warriors series. It is available in print or with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title right now to be taken to buy the book. Thanks to Melody Beckett for sponsoring this week's episode. Well, and I think like when Adriana was talking about like white feminism has like fucked us all like, right, like that vision. I think like any book where it's kind of like, well, I am safe and secure.
Yeah.
Right. This man will take care of me.
Right.
Right. And it doesn't matter what he does outside in the world, because like, I mean, like that to me is a very, and again, like romance doesn't have to be didactic, blah, blah, blah. But like at the same time, if you are, if you're reading book after book after book after book, where like that's what happens.
Right? The pull away from community again and again and again.
Yeah.
What are we doing in that text?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it just comes down to like, I mean, it's a romance, right? So like the point is like the central relationship with these two people. And I mean, I don't read a lot of dark romance, like a lot of, I have a hard time reading like graphic violence just because of like my job, my, work in trauma therapy and things like that. But like, I think part of it too, like I realize now that I've read a little, like I've been reading, some Jaquel J's books. And I mean, I wouldn't call her stuff like dark romance, but it's definitely like dark light. There's definitely like, it's like men and organized crime and like all of this stuff. So one of the things that I noticed reading her books, which I have enjoyed a lot, and I didn't know if I would, because like, I do have a hard time like reading about like reading dark romance, but it is like dark light. It's not like super dark. But like she has this book called 10,000 Hours with a Rich Menace, which the title itself is just amazing.
I'm getting it right now.
So 10,000 Hours with a Rich Menace was like the first book of hers that I read. And it's honestly like super funny too. But one of the things that I really loved about that book and have loved of like all the other books of hers that I've read is that the men the heroes always have women in their lives that they love and respect. Like they have an auntie, a gay best friend, a cousin, a sister. Like they have women in their lives that will call them to the carpet if they mess up, that they are accountable for, and who are like people that they are already protecting. So like the heroine comes into their lives, they're already a protector to other people, to other women in their lives. So that's one thing. Two, there's community. Like all her, like she has kind of like a Jaquel verse. So like all her books are interconnected, and it's usually families. Like there's one, like this family, it's like all the guys are named after like famous like mafia. So like Corleone. It's, I mean, like, honestly, I freaking
they're great.
really
That's like, perfect.
And I mean, Jaquel J is like a mega star. Like every book of hers comes.
Oh yeah,
and it's number one on the Kindle store for like days and days and days. Like, and she has a deep backlist. So anyway, but like to me, and I was like, okay, this I can fuck with. Like I can fuck with like a guy who he's crazy. They call him Menace.
Yeah.
And he's like, they meet and she's had her kid, like she ends up going away. So what happens is like she has this, like she's a nail tech. She has this client that's her friend, invites her to like a trip to Mexico, all expenses paid. It turns out that the friend has stolen money from Menace and has used like the heroine's account to like put the money in.
Uh-oh.
So she's basically like he, has her kidnapped. She's in this warehouse and she doesn't even know what's happening. He shows up and he's like ready to kill because you can't steal from Menace. And it's so good. And like, and of course, like the moment he sees her, like
gone.
It's a wrap. Like they make up something where he has to like have a baby, so they end up getting married. Yep. Like it's kind of like
this all works out perfectly.
It all works out perfectly. It's so funny. It's like a really funny book because he's so unhinged that it's just hilarious. But like throughout the book, he never lets her like she's like she has to be in his house, but like her friends come, like she's not like isolated from her people, and he has like women in his life that are there the entire time. And I'm like, I feel like this feels to me like the darker themes are like setting and like the organized crime is kind of like, it's like kind of like wallpaper, although he does kill a couple people. But like
I'm sure he has perfectly good reasons.
Community and family is so central to the heroes' relationships. Are so grounded that it makes me feel like I can believe that this man, even though in the world he's in, like I can believe that he can be a hero for her. Yeah. Because he's already a protector in his life to other women. And so anyway, that her work has given me a lot to think about in terms of like darker themes and romance and how, again, going back to point of view, I think it's been like her work to me is like fascinating because it's been really surprising, but also like she does a lot with the books.
Sarah, talk a little bit about like, I mean, you have the evolution, right? From kind of ballrooms to the bells. And it's not that I wouldn't say that Callie's book is not feminist, right? But like, I think that there's ways in which as you, like, it seems purposeful, right? Like sort of like Casino, like the Casino series was so different. And so was that because you felt you had more freedom to like, I don't think that you changed as much as maybe what you
I think that I think I have changed. I think I've learned, right? Like, I think I grew up like a white girl in a white town, like who knew about Gloria Steinem, and like second wave feminism was like suffragettes. And then you like learn hopefully you learn that there is more and things evolve. I would say, Callie, yes, my early books are, at the time felt just like I was writing a romance novel. Like I was writing a book I thought I wanted to write. I had read a million trillion Regencies. And I think like there certainly, the second book in that series is a good example of like, there was a house full of women. They were all on the run. They had all been harmed. Like, I will say like that book is my worst reviewed book of all of my books. I remember feeling very like doing that intentionally. And I don't know if it's my worst book, but it certainly was a book that was not well received by romance. But then
they wanted more Callie, right?
Adriana's making a face. um, and then now I think like, yeah, as I got older and wiser and my world expanded and the world became much more, Adriana said something today use some language today about like the election, like kind of waking up people who were in like a deep coma. Right.
Yeah, right.
And I think I luckily, like, I woke up from my deep coma a while back, but then, yeah, the text, then I did start thinking about it thematically. Like, I never thought of myself as a thematic writer, although looking back on 10 Ways, maybe I was always. But now I think like, and certainly like partially reading books like all of the ones that we're talking about and thinking about them and knowing people and loving people who are writing like just outrageously good texts that are feminist did change it. Yeah. And now when I sit down, I'm like, what's the theme? Talking to Adriana and talking to Kennedy, like talking to people who lead with theme.
Yeah.
I mean, I think consciousness is just so people like don't like, I think because it just like bleeds into like how you approach what you want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for all of us, like it is like it's like a work in progress in terms of like our comfort of taking on
fearlessness too, right? Like risk. And that is a thing that I think a lot of writers, especially non-millennial writers, I do think millennial writers are willing to take risks in a way that I think a lot of older writers or writers who came through the genre, before me and even with me, were told like, don't rock this boat because you're going to lose half your readers. You're not going to be able, like, everybody's going to hate the book. Like the moment somebody calls it political, you're going to be painted with this brush. And like the willingness to say, fuck that, I'm going to tell the story I can tell or I want to tell, it's a risk.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and in this environment, especially, like, I think it is, I mean, I think for some of us, it's not a choice, right? Like, I think for Black women, for queer women, for people of color, like, just writing the books that we're writing where like two people of color get to be happy together is already political. So like, we don't have a choice. So we might as well like go hard because we're already we're already making choices that are like whittling away our ability to be like palatable to like quote unquote mass audiences. But like, I think in general, it is, especially with traditional publishing. I think traditional publishing now is in a position where like, they are now kind of like just seeing what's really popular on its own on KU, and like the model for acquisitions has changed. So I don't even know how much they're thinking about like what's like content and themes in the books as much as they used to. But I mean, it wasn't too long ago where like, you were told that you had to be careful, you couldn't say this or you couldn't say that.
I think a lot of people are still feel that way.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, like I'm here to tell all those white ladies, like, guess what? You're going to find as many readers as you lose. So.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where we go back to like romance is huge. Everybody's here with a point of view, with a sense of like, and some people are out here writing for women who voted for Trump. Like, let's just be real.
Right.
And so, and because they they did themselves. So that's also a reality. Like romance has everything. And there's like an immense amount of romance out there that is like thinking about like justice and like diversity and intersectionality. And there's a lot of romance that's thinking an insurrectionist is my hero. And that's just what it is. Unfortunately, I mean, happy for them that they can read a book they enjoy, but
I also want to say, like, I think one of the there's sort of a sickness in thinking about romance as a feminist genre, like in general, that there is a sort of sense of like, well, if we don't interrogate, like, because like if we interrogate the text, then we are anti-feminist. Or like we're bad feminists, right? We're bad. We're not, or rather, we're bad at, we are critical of the sisterhood. How about that? Like there's sort of a sense of like,
yeah,
we have to support everyone in this business because patriarchy has held romance down, or patriarchy has made romance some sort of like, less valuable genre. And I think that the work of, certainly, like, I hope that the work of Fated Mates, but also I think like the work of anybody who loves romance is to interrogate it and sort of say like, these are the things that are valuable about the texts, and these are the things that are poisoning the well.
Yeah. Like, I think a lot about like the race to innocence, right? Which is like there's a great TikTok where the guy sort of describes like what it is, right? Which is like, if what you want to do is like retreat and run to the place where you are marginalized, and then not talk about all of the places in which you're privileged, right? Like you are working against like everybody being off, right? You're running away from that. And I think that to me is the place where where I see the people who feel most, right, like sort of threatened by this conversation, like running, right, doing that. Right. But I am, but like my characters are, for what in whatever way, right? Like this is the way in which they are marginalized. And therefore, if I just talk about that, I don't have to talk about the way in which they're privileged.
But also, and just to add the other layer, which is we often hear from authors that like, well, I am a woman and my readers are women, so this text is feminist.
Right. So that's, yeah. And yeah. And I mean, that's just tacitly not true, but like,
that's
also,
false.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and that's the thing where I'm like, it is what it is, because if being a woman made you someone that is a feminist, then we wouldn't be in the position we're in right now, because I just always like to remind everybody that 53% of white women did vote for Donald Trump in the last election.
Right.
And so I don't care what you're doing with your life. I don't care if you wear a feminist shirt every day. If you voted for Donald Trump, you are not a feminist.
Correct.
Well, we'll get on the 8 o'clock news and the 9 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news to tell you that. And so, like, that is just what it is. And I assume a lot of those women are reading books, right?
For the record, there are many reasons why you are not a feminist, but like, just so that for those of you who are like, well, how come? Because I still, whatever.
Right. I'm Samantha. I wanted what I wanted, right? I chose what I chose.
The platform that man ran on was about rolling back equity, rights, the equal rights of everyone who wasn't a white man, a cishet white man.
The world is objectively less safe for literally everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
Well, and it wasn't like last week in the news, I guess it was, the New York Times doing one thing I can admire or whatever, saying like essentially 350,000 Black women have lost jobs.
Yep.
And 350,000 white men have gained them.
Yes.
And that, right, is not just an anti-feminist act, but like misogynoir, right? Like an act that was explicitly meant to put Black women in particular into a worse spot.
And so even if we're going by the rule of if you are just looking out for other women, then you're a feminist, you have failed that
you
test
failed
too.
that too.
And so we're back to, and so again, like that, I think it is true that I think this idea that we can claim that romance is feminist as a blanket statement is just, it's not true. I think a lot of romance that perhaps isn't seeking to be feminist, I think can be greatly feminist because again, it doesn't really have to be that complicated. And I think a lot of romance that claims to be feminist because some woman's been stabbing people may not be feminist.
Yes.
Because in the end, what makes something feminist is not about your individual ability to get revenge, although sometimes it is. It is like how the world moves with you.
And I think that actually, if you're a Fated Mates listener, one of the things that's really interesting to Jen and I always when we have these Trailblazer interviews is how many of the women who, wrote these books that we, point to often and say like, oh, this like ancient text of romance like does feel feminist in some way. When you actually speak to them, when you actually ask them about the writing of the text, they often, I would say fully half of them are like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I don't think about my books that way. And so it's a good example of like, sometimes it's just baked in there and you don't even know.
It's just how you see the world. Like you see the world as a place where if you're in it, you should do your part. And if you're in it and you're the hero, because everybody doesn't have to be feminist, but if you're the protagonista, if the book is about you, then you should be behaving like a hero or heroine.
Genre drives us to be our best selves.
Yeah.
And leave the world in a better place.
Like I said, our listeners might be like, I don't care about this. I haven't thought about it. What does it mean or not to me as a person or someone in the world? And I just think like, right, if you are a person who is like the gender or sexual orientation of a person in the world should not actually determine anything about how the things they can accomplish or achieve, right? The race or ethnicity or the language a person speaks, right? Like if you believe in the idea that the world should be better for everyone, people should be able to like make their way in it and be successful, right? Regardless of like those external factors that other people might judge you for, then you're feminist. Welcome to our club.
Yeah, so sorry, but
you're already in the club.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not a bad word.
Show up at work tomorrow in combat boots and curse out every man at your job. Like you don't.
No. Right.
You don't have to tell every man you hate him, although you can say it internally. Like you don't.
Well, and I think that's it. I think a lot about like what, like feminism, one of the ways they get you, right, is by teaching you that feminism is about anger.
Yes. And hating men.
Yes.
Yeah. It's not misandry. That's a different word.
Which I dabble in.
I mean, sometimes I have that.
Which I dabble in, because let's be real.
And I think that if that's what you believe, if that's what you've been taught,
like you said, Jen, that's how they get us. Like the goal is to turn it into villainy because God forbid we should all just be working toward a better life for as many of us as possible.
Yeah.
Anyway, all of this is to say, interrogate your books. It's okay. Like,
yeah,
it's fine.
And also, listen, I have had a delightful time reading romances that I do not consider feminist, right? Like, this is not something where, and that's how the way they get you is like, that is joylessness, right? To be feminist is to be joyless and dried up like a prune. Like, not true. Look at me. I'm plump and delicious.
Plump and delicious, fully moisturized, hydrated. I mean, I think, yes, I think that is the key to, I mean, and you just have to listen to the way people on the right talk about feminism, about angry women, about
Everybody's
cat
ugly.
ladies with like, and it's like, we're all out here traveling, enjoying ourselves, having an Aperol spritzer. Like, you're all the miserable ones.
Yeah.
And I think, like,
I'm riding the subway.
Right.
I'm feeling fine.
we're out here reading our books. So I think that is part of it. Like it's like making that distinction that it really is about, when it comes down to, is feminism is a value system that contemplates the idea that we should all be safer. We should all have the opportunities to make our lives better and to make our children's lives better, and that our communities are well off, everybody's healthy, everybody's safe. And that can take a lot of different forms. And you can, be like at a PhD level with it, or you could be not at a PhD level with it. But again, I dispute that, because I think you have a very sophisticated sense of like what you think is justice. That paints everything that you consume. The reality is, unfortunately, romance is a very a genre where a lot of fucking great stuff is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really fucking smart people write it and read
Yeah.
it. And we have some texts that can challenge any other literary fiction text in the level of like the execution of feminist work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to like say that like that work within romance is like fundamental and really important to the survival of the genre, honestly.
Yes.
Yes.
Like it all doesn't have to be. It all doesn't have to be, but I think it's very important that it stays there and it continues there with intention.
Yeah. And that this is something we talk about. I mean, I think that's exactly it. Like, it doesn't have to all be there, but it is a big part of like what we aspire to and like what we believe as people and readers and authors. And so, yeah, it's important. If we just say like we can throw that out, I do think it is throwing the genre out.
I also just want to say, like, and they can be bangers too.
Oh, they all
They
are. Like,
are.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's the other thing. I think people get really nervous when they're like, when you say to somebody like, this book, right? Like, Heather Guerre's Preferential Treatment is a referendum on billionaires. Like, and they're like, oh, I don't know that I want that. And it's like, no, but also it's a banger. Like
We can chew gum and walk at the same time, everybody.
I need to talk about one book that I forgot and I should have remembered, because actually I think hits all of the categories. So I've talked to you guys about her and you haven't read her yet, I think. And I'm very mad at you about it. It's Rebecca Kincaid.
Wait, I have. Go on.
Streams and Schemes series. She has other books, but that series is about 3 women who are cam girls. They're all sex workers, and all the heroes are white. All the women are not white. 2 of them are Mexican, one's Filipino Mexican, and those books are like objectively some of the best erotic romance I have ever read. They are filthy. She is probably, to me, one of the people that like does kink the best that I've read. Of all the kink that I've read, she does. They're funny. They're so hilarious. There's great found family because the heroes are all best friends and the heroines are all best friends. They're, like, the women stay sex workers. Like, they don't have to quit their jobs,
right,
or whatever. And like, they're all like, all the guys are in like high, like, one's a banker, one's a politician, one is like a very high powered lawyer. And so they're negotiating these relationships with these women that, like, quote unquote, would put them in positions where like they could have issues with their own reputations. Those books, like, I don't know if she wrote them as like, I'm going to write this feminist book, but baby, she is writing feminist books, and they are legitimately the fucking dirtiest books I've read in years.
I mean, that's all I need to know.
And
I did download them and I didn't read them, so I'm gonna leave
know you
this
haven't
room.
I know you haven't,
because I haven't
the moment
texted
you
you.
began, you would have been texting me. And to me, I told Alexis Daria to read them, and immediately she started texting me because, baby, they bang. And like the conflict in those books is fantastic. Like they're just so good. There's completely millennial romance, like in all of the different ways that I like see millennial romance, like kind of having like certain themes. And like they're just fun to read. They're like so fun. They bring down the patriarchy every time. And the men they have the mouths on these men. And to me, like, I was like, this kind of romance, like, if we keep doing this, like, romance is gonna be just fucking fine.
Yep. Well, this is why I have started DNFing books where the heroine doesn't come first.
Oh, baby.
This is just my like new thing.
You're like, there's a line in the sand.
There
and
is.
that's how it should
Listen,
be.
That is also mine.
There is a lack of cunnilingus that I don't care for, and if she doesn't come first, I don't want it.
And I don't think that's that. I mean, I think that's.
I said what I said.
I mean, to me, that's like bare minimum.
That's like the bar is on the floor feminism.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, y'all go read Rebecca Kincaid and DM me.
The water is fine, is what Adriana is saying.
When you read her, you will let me know that you read her because fantastic.
Amazing. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed coming to school with us today. If all feminism classes were like this, we'd all be gender studies majors, and that would be better for everyone. So, Adriana, thank you as always for being with us. We love having you in our DMs, in our texts, and here on Zoom. Tell everybody. So the next thing is the Kickstarter.
The next thing is the Kickstarter. I have another novella coming out later this year of my Omegaverse fun novellas. I put out Hit and Run last year, and this year I'm putting out another one, probably like late November.
Okay.
So that's like the next thing that I'm putting out. That's just mine. But otherwise, you can still like pledge for After the End.
And that's
aftertheendromance.com.
aftertheendromance.com, or you can just go to Kickstarter and it's After the End, Kickstarter.
Adriana, like I said, we love having you. I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friends Jen Prokop and Adriana Herrera. We are Fated Mates. You can find us every Wednesday wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you head over to fatedmates.net, you can click on episodes and find in show notes a list of all the books that we referenced today, including maybe a reading list that Adriana will give us of like books that she thinks, if you want to learn more about feminism in general, like great bangers of reads related to feminism and intersectional feminism and third wave feminism and everything that came after Gloria Steinem. And also, you can find us online on Threads at Fated Mates Pod, on Instagram at Fated Mates Pod, and on Blue Sky at Fated Mates. It is September, which means in November we are coming up on the Virginia state elections. Virginia is this will be the first election that we come to after the big one last year. We are trying very hard to keep Virginia blue where it is blue and flip it blue where it is not blue. The States Project is doing that with us. We are raising money for the States Project in Virginia for down ticket races to make sure Democrats win. We want this to be a rout, and you can help. You can find out more about that by clicking on Fated States over at fatedmates.net, where you can join our community building space where we are fundraising as a group. And other than that, it's the autumn. It's the fall. And we love you, everybody, and we hope that you're having a great time, and we hope that you're reading great books. And when you read a book that's a banger and also feminist, please let us know. Let Adriana know, too. She wants to hear. So don't forget to stick around right after this week's episode for a special sneak peek of the audiobook of Pippa Grant's The Spite Date. Again, thanks to Pippa for sponsoring this week's episode.
Chapter 2. Welcome to Athena's Rest. Maybe. Simon Lockwood, aka a British actor and single dad who has no idea an apology is about to turn his world upside down. Well, this is awkward. 1 minute I've stopped short in utter delight at the sight of a food truck parked at the end of this street of shops in Athena's Rest, New York, thinking I'd like to finish my errands with a burger from this unique establishment. And the next, my security man is telling me that I had the owner arrested for trespassing at my estate while I was in the shower this morning. Was he on foot or did he arrive by burger bus? I inquire of Pinky. Pinky growls low in his throat as he boxes me in between a building and a potted plant at the end of the street. His head is down over his phone, undoubtedly texting someone for an explanation. He's a broad Scottish fellow who has the least patience of the 3 security men that the studio has insisted trail me and my boys since the unexpected breakout success of one of my television shows. She claimed you booked a party, Pinky tells me. I peer through the bush at the food van. The food bus. Much larger than the food vans back in London or the food carts in New York City. It's an actual school bus, painted with hamburgers stacked on their sides, a little pickle over the back wheel well, and above the window cut out for service, Best Burger Bus is spelled out and adorned with flowers that have hamburgers in the centre. I didn't book a party, though were I to, I would certainly entertain the idea of having it catered by a burger bus. How adorably charming. He stares at me, and as I stare back, I have a bloody good idea what the man's thinking. You book a party and not tell us, boss? He asks. Rather than answering, I pull my own phone from my trouser pocket. Heat is gathering on my neck. You say we had her arrested. She hacked the gate code, got all the way to the front door. I flip open my bank app and begin scrolling, though it's unnecessary to scroll far. The day is quite warm, but not warm enough to justify the increasing heat at the base of my neck. Fraud report, credit issued, is the first entry on the list of charges, with the vendor reported to be Best Burger Bus. I clear my throat and continue scrolling. Do you recall when I misplaced my phone for a full day last weekend? I say to Pinky. He grunts. I check the date as I come across the original charge to the Best Burger Bus, and I discover I'm lacking the correct word. What exactly is more awkward than regular awkward? A voice distracts me from my own embarrassment at the trouble I suspect my children have caused, and I turn to watch the burger bus again. A brown-haired woman is leaning out of the service window and having a lively discussion with a police officer. You're over the line, B, the policeman is saying. I squint closer behind my sunglasses at her. Is that her? I murmur to Pinky. Yes. She smirks at the officer, showing off her dimples.
Measure again and use your glasses this time. I can park this thing on a dime.
You just got it a month ago.
Yeah, and I got my bus driver's license when Griff started high school. Been doing this for years. Want to see me spin it in a donut?
Chief didn't approve that.
But he did approve me selling my fish here this afternoon.
She hands him a piece of paper.
See, authorization directly from him, right here. You can keep it. I made copies. Had a feeling I'd need a lot of them.
It's over the line.
It doesn't look over the line to me.
A tattooed brunette standing next to the officer says. She shakes her head and... No, not brunette. Her short, straight hair has layers of blue and green in it that are only noticeable when the sun catches it right.
Daphne has excellent vision.
B says.
Do you want me to call the chief for a tie-breaking vote? I'm sure he'd love to hear another of his officers is harassing me today.
The uniformed gentleman winces. Truly, I wince too. This woman, B, she's had a dreadful day because of me. I believe I owe this woman an apology, I say to Pinky. Bad idea, boss. That's been the answer since In the Weeds became an accidental runaway success 2 years ago, propelling me into the international spotlight for the first time in my otherwise lackluster career. Don't apologize, don't admit to wrongdoing, don't give anyone an opportunity to sue you when people know you have money. Excellent advice, truly. And I intend to ignore it. I open my mouth to say as much, but become distracted by a blonde-haired chap who dashes out of the establishment on the corner. She can't park that here, he says to the policeman. She needs a permit. No permits given today. Chief okayed it, the policeman says. The blonde man folds his arms and stares at the police officer. The police officer shrugs and repeats himself. Chief okayed it. You got a problem with her? Take it up with her. I can't make her move. It's wrong to huddle behind this potted plant and watch this unfold, but I still find myself opening my note-taking app on my phone. After months of not having any inspiration for a comedy series I'm contractually obligated to provide to the studio that made me famous, I'm feeling a whiff of creativity coming on. Could be the warm, late-afternoon summer air. Could be the charming little road beyond the burger bus called Secret Alley, which is lined with quaint 1- and 2-story shops that seem to have come from a different time and where I just located my favourite brand of tea, much to my surprise. Or it could be that this burger bus woman is utterly fascinating. She has good energy. Pluck, as they say. Despite my own deep feelings of guilt for what I've put her through, I'm rather enjoying watching this. Pinky audibly sighs. We should go, boss. Shh. The blonde man is squaring up to talk to B. I know why you're doing this, and you need to stop stalking me. Daphne, the woman with the multicolored hair, chortles out a laugh. B leans further out the window.
I'm not stalking you, Jake. I'm annoying you.
Good line. Well done. Annoy me somewhere else, Jake snaps.
Oh, you think I can just wave a magic wand and make somewhere else a better spot for customer traffic? I would love for the best spot in town to not be outside your father's office. Here's an idea. How about he moves? The secret alley could do so much better than an ambulance chaser's propaganda at the entrance. Don't you have extra office space in the building you stole from me?
I did not steal it. Daphne coughs.
Liar.
Despite my own embarrassment at my boys' behaviour and the situation they put this woman into, I can't stop smiling. B, it appears, can't either, though her smile is harder than her friend's. She tucks a lock of curly brown hair behind her ear and props her elbows on the windowsill.
Yes, and your brother didn't arrest me for the pure fun of it this morning. I could sue the police department. That would look great on his record. I have a friend in the city who needs pro bono cases.
Daphne pipes up.
And helping a down-on-her-luck woman who hasn't caught a break since she had to quit college to raise her brothers after their parents tragically died is great optics. For my friend. Clearly not for your brother. Or for B. But that's exactly why everyone would take her side over yours. She's sympathetic. You're an ass.
Good Lord. This was a terrible woman to have accidentally arrested. I hope she's a fan of In the Weeds. Can you tell her to shut up and give us some privacy? Jake says to B. B snorts.
For you? No. Daphne, get closer and keep talking. Like this close?
Daphne steps closer to Jake.
Closer would be better. He hates when you're in his bubble. Ew. He smells like sulfur and pickles. But fine. Fine. Is this close enough?
Jake stumbles back and almost trips on the curb. I'm calling the chief.
Have at it, you big stud.
B makes a low, growling cat purr that takes both me and my cock by surprise.
You know how much I love it when you tattle to Daddy.
Daphne snorts again. Jake growls and charges back into the shop he emerged from moments ago. I adjust my trousers, then go back to typing notes to myself. I'd prefer to use dictation, but I am on a street, making notes about the woman arrested on the order of my proxies this morning, likely to be spotted by any number of the people also strolling by or pausing to watch, and I don't need to speak out loud to draw attention to myself. Not many Brits around. I stand out by virtue of my accent, never mind my fame. Still getting used to it, to be honest. While it's thrilling to be asked for pictures, and going out in disguise is an amusing kind of fun, there are a few downsides, such as needing security, and the way that they're terrifying. Don't misunderstand, Tank, Butch, and Pinky are good at their jobs, but also terrifying. 3 security specialists are perhaps overkill, but then the studio executives are familiar with my boys, so possibly not overkill after all. The other biggest downside to fame is regularly being asked what's next. I was happily rolling along in the obscurity of barely not broke actor land roughly 2 years ago, when an influencer live-streamed herself watching the show that launched to crickets 3 years before that. Overnight, I became a household name, and the studio is demanding that I cough up the contracted material for a new show without delay to capitalize on my moment in the spotlight now that we've rushed through a second season of In the Weeds. Far easier said than done to deliver new material, though, unfortunately. Pinky nudges me. Best get on with it. Get on with it. Right, of course. I pocket my phone, and he and I step out from behind the foliage to approach the burger bus. Scents of cooking oil and chips, French fries, permeate the air. People mill about the cobblestone pavements on either side of this charming side street off the main road, but the policeman has left, and so has Jake. Daphne is nowhere to be seen on the street either. B is no longer at the window. I approach it and rap on the windowsill near the front of the bus. Hello? The woman I recognize as Daphne appears inside the vehicle, wiping her hands with a towel as she turns to approach me.
It'll be a few minutes. We're still warming up that... Oh, fuck. Are you serious?
I smile pleasantly at her. Could I please speak with Ms. Best?
Why?
To offer my sincerest apologies for the mix-up this morning.
As opposed to your insincerest apologies?
Ah, yes, my insincerest apologies. I have been known to make those on occasion. I pull my sunglasses over the brim of my baseball hat so that she can see me wink. I save those for when I accidentally mow down a man after he's been unnecessarily rude to a lady. Ms. Best, please. B herself appears behind Daphne.
Daph? What's wrong? Are you for real right now?
Ms. Best. My smile falters in the face of the unamused energy radiating off her.
I know who you are.
Complimentary, that was not. Not that I deserve for this to be easy. She should not have ended up in jail over me. I see. I wish to
see you gone. Tally-ho, good potheads. I do believe this is the end. As it should be. Cheese shop is that way. You should check it out.
I'm...
Lactose intolerant? I know that about you too.
My head might be spinning. This woman can quote In the Weeds and knows my stomach cannot digest cheese, but nothing about her suggests she's a fan. There's likely another explanation, and this one has me smiling again. You must know Lana. My ex, the boy's mother, who's still one of my best friends and who's rather tied up with family issues, hence my summer in her hometown to be the primary caregiver for the boys. She doesn't mince words. good or bad. It's perfectly fine. I'm aware my shortcomings exist, and I'm very comfortable with forgiving myself for them, though this situation is a little more difficult than most. This may be the first time someone has been arrested because of me, and I dislike that immensely, especially as she was very likely innocent in the whole ordeal. She continues to frown at me.
Do I know who Lana is? Yes. Do I know her personally? No.
I open my mouth, close it, and try once more. Ms. Best, I'd like to apologize.
Sure, whatever. All's forgiven.
All does not sound forgiven. Is it? She squeezes her eyes shut, then sighs long and loud when she opens them again, as though my face is the last in a string of very bad things about her day.
It is if forgiving you means you'll let me try to salvage the rest of this day and get back to opening my bus to sell my fish.
She says. I wince to myself. So it doesn't go bad, of course. Daphne coughs again, and this time it's accompanied by a
Dick.
B shoots her the same kind of look Lana regularly gives the boys, half frustration, half exhaustion.
Well, he is.
Daphne whispers.
Apologies won't pay for the fish he stuck you with.
Heat once again gathers at the base of my neck. Rather doubt it's because of the summer breeze. More because I'm realizing B might be in the same kind of spot in which I've found myself more than once over the past 15 or 20 years. That is to say, in a financial pickle. But this time, it's because of me. And naturally, I'll reverse the fraud report. My accountant must have made it. Did I mention the suspicious part of B's gaze? Because that's aimed fully at me now.
Will you?
She says. Of course, fish?
Doubt that. Your biggest fanboy would have told me if you fished.
I'm rather wary of the tone she's using. It's ominous. I shake my head. No, this is a burger bus. Why are you selling fish?
Called a secret menu, dude, and you ordered all of it.
Daphne says. A secret menu? This is the best and worst experience I've ever had. Highly inspirational, highly mortifying.
Your kids did it, didn't they?
B says to me. I find there's no good answer to that question that doesn't ultimately leave the blame for your experience this morning solely on my shoulders. And I do apologize, for myself and for the role my children may have played as well. The two women share a look.
Didn't expect that.
Daphne murmurs.
Still don't want to keep seeing his face.
B murmurs back, and I smile. It is my default facial expression, but in this case, you both rather dislike me. It's odd these days. Also oddly refreshing in a way I'd like to not examine. Daphne pins me with a flat stare that makes uneasy tingles dance down my spine.
We don't know you. You pulled a double cross on my best friend and got her sent to jail. And I've met a few celebrities in my life. Too many of you think you can get away with anything just because you have a pretty smile. I'd say we're suspicious, but sure, we can use your words and say instead that we rather dislike you. Are you going to fix the payment problem or not?
I've also met a few celebrities in my life, clearly, and while many of them are marvelous human beings, I can unfortunately understand their suspicions. I dig into my trousers for my phone again. I do apologize again. Little fuckers can be quite sneaky. I'll call the credit card company myself straight away.
You know it'll take days to get this straightened out.
Of course. Happy to pay again, immediately. The rest shall sort itself out in the wash. They share another look, and then Daphne grabs a tablet, navigates the screen, and holds it out to me with the card reader attached. I glance at the readout on the card reader she's extended my way, verify it's roughly what I'd expect, and I add a 50% tip. Once again, the women eyeball each other. Then they share a shoulder shrug. And then they both look at me with matching "are we done now" expressions. Utterly fascinating how they're in sync. Now that I've made this situation right, I need to wrap this up so I can get home and take notes, make some character sketches. "Are you sisters?" I ask them. They don't pause to share any glances before both staring at me as though they've never seen my level of idiocy in their lives. To be fair, it's a rather ignorant question. They look nothing alike. Bee's light brown curls that keep escaping her sloppy bun, and her bright green dress, the twin dimples in her cheeks, and her long nose and wide pink lips, are near polar opposites to Daphne's straight, multi-hued dark hair, brown eyes, button nose, and Cupid's bow lips, which are stained a deep burgundy. Bee's at least 2 inches taller, though I have no idea what shoes either are wearing, which could clearly change their heights. But Daphne has a smaller frame to Bee's perfect curves. She's far from a waif, but she's also noticeably smaller than Bee.
No.
They answer together. My security man clears his throat. I know that throat clear. It means it's time to move on. "I truly am sorry for your inconvenience, Ms. Best," I say. "I'll monitor the boys better to ensure this doesn't happen again."
Where are your children, Mr. Lockwood?
I requested my other 2 security agents sit on them until I return. I'm sure they've not caused any more mayhem. I smile at her again. She doesn't return the expression, so I clear my throat. They're with their mother. She picked them up over their loud protests that I didn't understand at the time, soon before you arrived.
Hope you took their credit card away.
Daphne murmurs. Of course, yes, and Lana's a far better parent than I am. I'm certain they'll cause no more mischief while with her. There it is. More silent communication between the 2 women. I clear my throat again. I'll also inform the staff that you're welcome to call around. Bee's brows knit together.
Generous as that offer might be, it's unnecessary.
Daphne leans on the windowsill.
Or are you asking her on a date?
I start, then realize I have perhaps made a miscalculation, but also a date wouldn't be a bad idea. My head is absolutely spinning with ideas for a new pilot to show the studio after this encounter. No, merely that if it happens again...
It won't.
Bee says.
She's a little over men right now.
Daphne says in a stage whisper.
Even famous British single dads with the world's most popular TV show, or possibly especially famous British single dads who played total dicks on that popular TV show?
A murmur breaks out behind me. Daphne straightens and makes a "you're next, come on up" gesture.
Secret menu only today, and it's all on the house. Fish on a stick? It'll be ready in just a few minutes. We're still heating the fryers.
Fish on a stick? That's odd. I start to ask if I could have one, but then I hear it.
Is that Simon Lockwood?
Someone whispers behind me.
Oh my God, it's Peter Jones.
That can't be Peter Jones. What's he doing here?
Didn't you know? His baby mama's from here. Lana Kent, remember? And her mom is fighting going into the memory unit at Shady Acres. Oh my God, that's Simon Lockwood.
Pinky grabs me by the elbow and tugs. I nod to the ladies. Right then, thank you for your time. Apologies once again. I smile at the crowd behind us while my man pulls harder. Good afternoon. Lovely to see you all. Enjoy your fish on a stick? This entire burger bus keeps getting more and more fascinating. I turn back to the window. How do you keep it on a stick?
Duct tape.
Bee replies from deeper within the bus. At the same time, Daphne says,
Super glue.
Is it not so flaky that it falls off the stick? They share yet one more look while